Hello. So, if you didn't know, Wuthering Waves silently dropped an update that modifies, blatantly for indecency censorship, some models, including the bodysuit of a premium character whose banner is by now almost over, and which people have already spent even thousands of dollars on. I don't want to waste your time going around the topic for 10 minutes, so I'll go straight to the main point. The fact Kuro noticeably altered the design, even if it's a minor detail, of an already released character, especially a premium character, and the fact these and other visual design changes in the game happen silently, without any zero mentions at all in any patch note, is objectively wrong. And if you're a player who cares about the game and maybe even spent money or is willing to spend money on it, you should actually be concerned. Furthermore, the fact these changes seem... no, they don't seem. They are an indecency censorship is worrying by itself, for multiple reasons. Now, mentioning these facts alone should already tell enough on why any player is legitimated in expressing their concerns. But looking around, I've seen so many dismissing and short-sighted opinions, and many awful takes from many sources, even creators I respect a lot and who usually provide interesting and well-reasoned analysis, like Ryuuku Sensei, whose video on the topic was a tragedy.
It's literally just a change to the shaders. If you're playing this game for porn, then just go watch porn. Show me anywhere in the marketing material where they promoted that. I'll wait, but I won't hold my breath. This is a minor change to fix a bug with the shading.
Jesus Christ. People are doing what they always do. Every time a slightly controversial problem manifests, and anything in this era is controversial, we immediately polarize and dumb down the discussion on it, losing sight of what's really important. We do this in anything, from silly internet discussions to national politics, which is also why democracy is suffering all over the world, but I'm going off topic. This is not a gooners versus respectable non-gooners thing. There are three distinct problems here. The first one is the non-enhancing alteration of a finished product customers paid for. Second, intentional lack of transparency on this change. There's absolutely no reason why this shouldn't be notified unless the company doesn't want to, and this isn't good. Third, we witnessed an indecency censorship. The first two are objectively wrong. They are not okay no matter how compelling your argument is, and gooners bad isn't a very convincing one. While the third point can technically be defended, but it inherently describes a situation where the devs either can't fully express their vision for the game, which is bad, or are changing direction and game target altogether, which is not inherently bad on its own, but given the context, I have good reasons to not be a fan. Now, let's address the gooning allegations. Listen, not only I don't have Cantarella, but I don't like her design at all. It's too goon-bait for me. Absurdly large chest, beachy outfit, and surprise surprise, a huge turn-off for me was her bodysuit line resembling a huge camel toe. Yes, not only I was aware of that element, since even before her release, but it was actually an element which I openly disliked. I personally found that too vulgar, considering also Cantarella's role in Rinascita. Because, yeah, in Italian it's Rinascita, I'm sorry, I won't say Rinascita, it's too weird. Even the Chinese devs did their best to pronounce it Italian way.
Rinascita. 没错，黎娜西塔.
Anyway, yeah, I disliked a lot that element. Indeed, I'm not here to support or defend the previous model, nor to defend Kuro's obvious intention to cater to gooners, which, I mean, it's very obvious. I am here to just state the obvious, what should be obvious, that nerfing a product which was already sold is very, very bad practice, and just accepting it this time because maybe it doesn't affect you or your experience today is a very childlike and narrow-minded view. I personally would feel embarrassed to defend it. And yeah, I'm saying nerfing because this character obviously and shamefully caters to gooners. Listen, you don't design a sexy, half-naked mummy with gargantuan outbursting breasts who spends half her trailer violating a cherry with her tongue, and then as developers and a company who literally sells hot waifus, you just don't notice that her carefully crafted underwear, which is in plain sight by the way, has a suggestive line which accidentally resembles a camel toe.
To fix a bug with the shading on a fabric.
Come on, bro. Come on. But okay. Okay, let's pretend to be dumb as shit and argue that it was an accident. It wasn't, but let's pretend. It was still a visible element many people noticed, and since this character was designed the way it is, you can be certain that most people who pulled for her, and also spent money for her, analyzed and engraved in their minds every centimeter of her garments and more. I'm a big fan of Jix's apps, so I know what I'm talking about, and I'm not ashamed. It doesn't nor shouldn't matter how big or small the change is. It is a noticeable change many were 100% aware of, and you can be sure many who pulled and even spent money for her actually liked. This makes this behavior from Kuro not only worrisome for any player because it sets an awful and undiscriminating precedent. No one with a functioning brain should defend no matter the object. But it's also against consumer laws in most countries, China included. Okay, so I did some research and this actually seems to be wrong. There are consumer protection laws, sure, that cover the modification of digital content or digital service and give consumers the right to a refund or a digital copy of the unaltered product. But assets in a gacha game are such an extreme edge case that I don't think any of these protection laws can effectively apply to them. From what I see, they actually don't. Which doesn't mean they shouldn't, though. It's still our right to protest for our laws to be modernized and protect consumers from unfair practices, like the EU is successfully doing with their new key principles against malicious practices with virtual currencies. Remember, the lack of some laws doesn't mean we shouldn't have these laws. Even slavery was legal and socially accepted once. Now back to the video. So even if you don't understand or don't care about this whole topic, even if you don't care about the changes and so on, just don't oppose people complaining. They are actually doing you a favor. So even if you don't really get the gravity of what happened, or even if you aren't sure it is that important, still the best thing you can do is simply to shut up. Respectfully. Just shut up and let your fellow gamers or gooners or whatever you want to call them defend your consumer rights for you. Even better, do yourself a favor and ignore Twitter for a couple of days. Go outside and enjoy that soft green grass you tell other players to touch. Now, I'd like to better address the gooner strawman from a side of the community, Ryuuku Sensei included, but surely many others I'm not aware of because I have a life. As someone who, again, despises Cantarella's design, but also dislikes, for example, small boobs moving like self-sensing paddings, I find the demonization of people enjoying suggestive elements in a character design or even in enemy designs very bigoted and prudish. It's fine to dislike them. It's fine to have different preferences on which elements are okay and how far they can go, sure. Again, I'm not a fan myself of Cantarella's design, and it also bothered me during the story because it felt kind of immersion breaking. But just because something isn't relevant for you or enjoyable for you, it doesn't mean it's not for someone else. We are all fellow gamers. We distract ourselves from a shitty reality, enjoying our good-looking waifus and husbandos beating up poor people with flashy moves. And in the meantime, we appreciate different things. Some of us couldn't care less about how a character looks as long as the gameplay is peak, and others instead find joy in admiring even the tiny details of a character's design at least once in a while. I do that too sometimes, and that's also why the following take from Ryuuku triggered me so much.
Jinshi has a mole on her thigh, right? It's barely noticeable and it doesn't come up in the story, nor was there any attention drawn to it. If Kuro, for whatever reason, decided to remove that, I don't think they would notify players about that either. Would those same people say the same thing if they removed Jinshi's thigh mole like in the example I gave earlier? I don't think so.
Don't you dare touch that mole. No, seriously, it would piss me off. Yeah, objectively speaking, it's a small detail that seems insignificant in the grand scheme of things. In reality, though, it's something people easily give a subjective value, and for me, like for others, that's a very small detail, which though is an essential part of what makes Jinshi's character design not just likable, but also unique in a certain way. Not because other characters don't have moles, but because that's her mole and it's a characteristic of her. I can bet those moles aren't just random, but strategically placed by the devs because they know people would not just like them, but also relate the character to them and make it more special in some way. Liking this detail is subjective, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have a real effect on people. Indeed, I promise you, those moles are intentionally placed for this very reason, and their removal would feel a betrayal and make the character feel less authentic. But it's not just something relevant to aesthetics. Like, imagine if the lore of some characters gets changed to better please the government or a new audience the game wants to target. It wouldn't affect the gameplay at all, and most people don't even read this. But you can be sure some do, and care a lot also. A change even subtle would really annoy lore lovers and many dedicated mains, especially if it seems driven by censorship rather than an artistic intention. The argument that in combat you don't care about a minor visual detail applies also to these players and many others. Like, why do you care so much about some words? Go read a book. Isn't that different from why do you care so much about suggestive details? Go watch a porn. It's just dismissive and hypocritical, without rationally addressing any relevant point. Listen, You have every right to express whether the game caters to your taste or not, and in what direction you would like the game to go. That's totally fine. But don't shame people for liking suggestive details in a game that, by the way, has goon-baited players since 1.0. Like, seriously, just look at Yinlin. She's a bondage fetish. And don't make me bring up the camellia scene.
Sex her! Sex her! Holy
Like, this is not coincidental, so stop blaming players for just enjoying what Kuro is intentionally selling. If you don't like it or you don't want to see it in the game, blame Kuro. And by the way, can we just stop trying to defend or normalize companies making changes to our products without notifying us? Like, seriously, what the hell is the rationale that justifies this crap? I want to know what they do, what they change, because it's my fucking right. Finally, I'd like to address quickly the censorship topic. Now, there are several speculations on why Kuro quickly made these changes. An easy guess by many is that they were forced by the government, similarly to what happened in the past to other gacha games, especially those who can legally be played in China by minors. And to support the government interference thesis, there was also that scandal with the Korean event, which ended up on the Chinese national TV, and it seems many Chinese coordinatedly reported Kuro to the CCP in retaliation. But honestly, I'm not fully biting it. What bothers me is that instead of censoring the game just in China, like they did with punishing Rare Ravens, they censored the game globally and didn't even say anything about it. Many know that the CCP, it's a dictatorship, okay? The CCP can be very strict, so by notifying the community, even without mentioning the reason, people would have easily guessed. But applying the changes secretly and globally, this is sus. Things make more sense when you notice that a few days ago, Wuthering Waves changed its age rating on several stores from 12+ to 16+. The community saw this as a good thing, and honestly me too, because 12-year-old children shouldn't play a gacha, and let alone this one. Also, many thought Kuro was preparing to add more mature content, from more suggestive outfits to darker and more gruesome stories. So all very exciting stuff, but what if Kuro didn't want to be rated 16+? What if they got forced and now want to go back to the 12+ rate ASAP in order to benefit from more convenient ad placements and being more accessible to a bigger audience? Sadly, I find this very likely. I don't know if the new age rating in Western stores was also the result of reports from the same Chinese actors involved in the Korean drama, or if the timing is just a big coincidence. But it's clear that Kuro pushed these changes silently and globally, so the hypothesis that they are trying to lower the age rating while doing damage control seems to be extremely reasonable. And if that's the case, then Kuro would be acting very, very shady. I saw some reactions to this theory, and what I noticed is that many fans tend to dismiss or diminish it with comments like, "We should trust Kuro." We should what? We are talking about a multi-billion Chinese company, half owned by Tencent, and whose business model heavily relies on gambling addiction, FOMO, and other manipulation tactics, literally by design of their own game model. You can like their products, we can give them the benefit of the doubt, but trust isn't something I would give to such an entity, because ultimately their main concern isn't making you happy, but maximizing profit. And unless you are a kid, you should know that despite we're talking about a game, making you happy isn't necessarily the most efficient way to maximize profits. Okay, we just got an update. Wuthering Waves just addressed the change to Fleurdelys, finally, as a quick fix they had to make in little time, and they say they will adjust the changes later on to find a better compromise. It's good that they finally spoke to us, and it's nice to hear that they'll do a better job with Fleurdelys, but I can't say this communication satisfies me. Remember that we are very close to the anniversary when top-ups are refreshed and more people tend to spend, and many players were saying that they weren't willing to spend because of the censorship and lack of communication. Furthermore, they didn't mention Cantarella and stayed very vague on the reasons of their actions. So what this message implicitly tells to me is that Cantarella's model won't be reverted, and they don't talk about it simply because it wouldn't be a good thing to announce, it wouldn't be good news, and many players wouldn't like it. And also, if they don't say anything, they don't need to issue some compensation for the Cantarella players. This is also something to consider, and this is also why I'm not really happy with this communication. A few asked rights for Cantarella players, whether they care or not, whether the CCP forced Kuro to change things or not. It's the bare minimum, and it's really a shame that Kuro's official reply to this for now is just silence. Now, we can also speculate that an alternative explanation for not mentioning Cantarella is that they are trying to keep her on a low profile to then revert even partially the changes when they have less attention, but I'm not optimistic on that. Also, people are assuming the CCP forced Kuro to make the changes, but remember, the changes are global, not just in China. So I wouldn't exclude that Kuro received pressure from Western sellers for the reasons we just addressed earlier. In conclusion, this communication is a step in the right direction, sure, but feels more like a PR move, and the truth on these changes and why they are affecting global rather than just China are not clear. Now I leave you again to the past me. Finally, self-censorship to be promoted to lower age groups could also mean that their story and gameplay content will cater to these players more. Now, I don't want to doom post on some speculation, so I'll stop here. But coming from Genshin, which embraced a similar approach to cater to younger folks and pass through parents' filters, I really hope I'm wrong on this one, and that Kuro, even if it's self-censoring, just wants to cheat the lower age rating without actually committing to adjusting core parts of their content, which is still despicable for the reasons I previously explained, by the way. Let's see how things go in the next days. But for now, please, every player should report to Kuro that you don't accept non-enhancing changes to release characters, and that this behavior undermines your willingness to spend money. And if you don't like the censorship in general, please mention that too. And if you don't care about any of these, that's fine, but again, don't undermine the efforts of those willing to defend their and your consumer rights. Their actions benefit everyone, so let them raise their voice. You gain nothing from opposing them, but risk to lose a lot in the future if you do. Thank you for watching, and let me know if you like videos like this. I might decide to post more. See ya!